Have you ever wondered why we don't seem to have enough money to solve the problems that our country is facing today? There's two things I want to share with you. The first one is a true story from a fellow named Jim who used to be one of my wife's jogging buddies. And Jim used to be a banker. He told me this story twice, did not change any part of the story, so I'm taking this as factual. You see, Jim used to be a banker. And in Greensboro, there was a day when a representative from the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, Virginia, came down to Greensboro to do a series of workshops for the bankers locally. And Jim tells his story about it was 8 o'clock in the morning, and all the local bankers were drinking their coffee, trying to wake up. They took their seats, and the representative from the Richmond Federal Reserve Bank told this story about how they needed a parking lot. And so the representatives from the bank went out and found a piece of property that would suit to add a parking lot for the bank. They negotiated a price, and then he said they went back to the bank and they generated a check. You see, most of the Federal Reserve banks don't have a checking account. Why do they need one? They create money. So they took the check, they bought the property, the check gets canceled, goes through the system, comes back to the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, and he said they tore it up and threw it in the trash can. There was one banker sitting on the front row who suddenly woke up, stood up and said, "You can't do that! Create money out of thin air to buy a parking lot?" And the representative from the Federal Reserve says, "Why can't we? We are the Federal Reserve. We create money. That's what we do." Now think about that. Free of charge, out of thin air, they create money to buy a parking lot. When we cannot create money free of charge to solve our social problems. I want to share another story with you. This is also true. From a journalist named Charlie Reese, who wrote this story years ago as a columnist for the Orlando Sentinel. Charlie Reese said, "Have you ever wondered why, if both the Democrats and Republicans are against deficits, we have deficits? Have you ever wondered why, if all the politicians are against inflation and high taxes, we have inflation and high taxes?" He goes on to say that 100 senators, 435 congressmen, 1 president, and 9 Supreme Court justices, 545 human beings out of our population of over 300 million, are directly, legally, morally, and individually responsible for the domestic problems that plague this country. Now note that we elect, out of that 545, we elect 536 of those people every few years, and we re-elect them. And Reese further stated that when you fully grasp the plain truth that 545 people exercise complete power over the federal government, then it must follow that what exists is what they want to exist. If the tax code is unfair, it's because they want it unfair. If the budget is in the red, it's because they want the budget in the red. This means to me that if our health care, welfare, education, immigration, mental health, gun control, veteran system, hazardous waste cleanup, and infrastructure systems are broken, those 536 elected officials must want them to stay broken. And if we cannot create enough money to meet our needs without having to borrow that money from a banking system that is designed to keep us in perpetual debt, which we cannot afford, it's because those 536 elected officials want the banks to make debt slaves out of all of us. Now think about that. There is a solution that President Lincoln created back in 1862 when he needed money to win the Civil War. He went to the banks and they said, we'll lend you all you want starting at 24% interest. And Lincoln says, I don't think so. He went back to his advisors and they said, well, let's create it free of charge in the Treasury. And as long as we make it the legal tender, the legal money of the land, and we can accept it in payment for taxes, then people will use that free money, which they did and which existed until the mid-1990s. So this has been done before, but that's another story. The 2 points I want us to remember here today. One, the banking system can create free money to buy a parking lot and perhaps anything else they want, but they will not create any free money to solve the problems that our society faces today. The second thing is that there are 536 elected representatives who have the power to fix everything, and they refuse to do it. How does that make you feel? Exactly. Mad, upset. What is going on here? And we have a problem with the whole banking system that is designed to keep us in perpetual debt, and also the 536 elected representatives who want to keep us into debt slavery because they refuse to fix the banking problem and they refuse to fix the other problems in our culture, even though they have the power to do so. Until we make debt-free money a primary election issue and come up with a solution similar to what President Lincoln did, they will keep us in debt slavery forever.